Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. And how about them Dolphins, ladies and gentlemen? We're riding real high right now. Feels great. Feels great after a whole, was it 3 years of the Adam Gase debacle, a lot of Joe Philbin, and a lot of other stuff that I could bring up as a Dolphins fan. This feels great, man. This is the best team we've had in a long time. This is the best organization we've had in probably 2 decades. It's the best head coach we've had in definitely 2 decades. And we're going to get into all of that in today's episode. I just had to bring that up because it does feel good, to actually see the team play this well. It feels great. So let's get into the news. Before we do that, though, I want to shout out one of our subscribers, Frost. He was very generous. He helped get some of my stuff back when I got scammed. So shout out to Frost. Very, very generous, man. Very, very awesome subscriber there. Let's get into some of the news here. A lot of interesting stuff. We're going to break down a lot of interesting stuff. So this first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Latest on the Dolphins' decision to start Tua. Speaking of that decision, we now have, again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors, we now have some more details on the Dolphins' thought process to start Tua over Fitz. The fact that Miami owns the Texans' first and second round pick next April played a role, sources told Adam Schefter of ESPN. With the way that Houston is circling the drain at 1-6, those picks figure to be very high. Apparently, the Dolphins wanted to make sure they got an extra long look at Tua just in case they're in position to take a top quarterback in the 2021 draft. So this is a very interesting news story for a lot of different reasons, and I want to start here before we move on to actually, is it smart to do this if the Dolphins, if we treat this like a credible source? But before we do that, I'm going to break this down. A lot of the stuff surrounding this organization has been false. It's been absolutely false. The Xavier Howard trade stuff, that was false. It wasn't reported the right way. Some of it was true, but the majority and the basis of it was not true. And it was just kind of very poorly reported. Remember when we were going to draft Andrew Thomas and Jordan Love? That didn't happen. Do you remember when Stephen Ross, and this is something that NBC Sports continues to say, and it's not true, it's factually incorrect, that Stephen Ross picked Tua. That's not what happened. Omar Kelly and Dave Hyde, who have been beat writers for that organization for a long time, have said that is completely false, if you watch the Omar and Dave Hyde show. If Stephen Ross was making draft decisions, and this is something that they've brought up a lot, and it's true, he would have drafted Lamar Jackson instead of Minkah Fitzpatrick. That was, even before the draft, that was heavily rumored. So Stephen Ross has really not gotten his way in the front office in a long time. He's been kind of hands-free in that area. And that's something Omar has brought up many times. So a lot of these reports have been completely false. I don't know where they get their sources from, but a lot of it has not been true, and it's very annoying because it's like, just do some research. Like, even if the beat writers say it's not true, and even sometimes the beat writers are wrong, as we have learned in recent news. It just, I don't know. The sources of this stuff I don't understand where these people, I think they really just do it for headlines, in my opinion. I don't understand where they get this stuff from. Because, like I said, not even 80%, 90% of the time, it's not even true. So, before we get into this and treat this like a real news story, I just wanted to say that, like, how many times they have been wrong. So let's treat this like a real news story. If you're the Dolphins, this is a little bit of a Captain Obvious thing. Why wouldn't, first of all, you would want to see what Tua has anyway. Do I think the Dolphins are going to have to actually pull the trigger on a quarterback? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I still am a huge believer in Tua, despite the poor offense, which 99% of it was not his fault, and we're going to get into that in the breakdown. It's not even close, and I'm sure you guys have noticed it as well when you watch the game. We'll get into the fan Q&A and see what your reactions to the game were. But it wasn't Tua's fault. I still really like him as a player. I think he is a franchise quarterback. I think he's a special, special quarterback. And I have since he played, 2 years ago, and, he was killing it in Alabama. I've always wanted him to be a Dolphin, if you've listened to the show for a long period of time. I'm not going to get off of that. So, in my opinion, this is not even going to become an issue. The Dolphins are going to use those 2 first-round picks to make the team even better. And watch out for this team after that season, because we might be a Super Bowl contender really, really fast, the way this team's going right now. Especially with those 2 first-round picks. It's going to be very interesting to see. And I'm really excited to, when that time does come around, to really break down the prospects, because it's going to be really fun to see where we are sitting at that point, and the amount of excitement going into that season is going to be ridiculous. So I'm very, very excited about that, and obviously very, very excited to see Tua. But again, if it's kind of, like I said, it's a little bit of a Captain Obvious thing, because of course you want to see what Tua has. And if Tua, let's say Tua is the next Blaine Gabbert, that's not going to happen, I promise you, then yeah, you would have to make that move in this draft. But they're not going to have to do that, I promise you guys. He's too talented. He's in my opinion, for that to ever happen. So yeah, again, like I said, the source isn't very credible, and like I said, 190. I'm pretty sure. I'm not even sure. I'm positive that those draft picks will be used, obviously to improve the team. And I guess that's not really what the news story is about. They're just, I guess it's like I said, it's a little bit of it's like any other team in the league would do this. So. It is what it is, especially if a team had this high of a pick and they just drafted a quarterback and they're looking for a franchise quarterback. Obviously, this would be something that is an avenue to explore. And like I said, I don't think this is necessarily something that they got from the Dolphins. Who in the Dolphins building would say something like that, number one. And number two, it just seems to me like a ESPN get-up headline talking point. It doesn't really seem like an actual I don't know. Because like I said, If it is, I don't think it's been said in the organization. It's kind of just common sense, in my opinion. I don't know. It's just a stupid story, in my opinion. I think it's a very, very stupid story. Anyway, let's move on. It's interesting, but it's stupid in a lot of different ways. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors, and I'm not saying, I don't want to sound like, oh, because I love Tua so much, like, oh, how dare you, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I just don't believe it because of how, out of the other 3 news stories that have come out about this team have not been true, in my opinion. Well, not even in my opinion, it's just a fact. So let's get into the next news story. This comes from Pro Football Rumors, and this is a very interesting news story. Dolphins set high asking price for Xavier Howard. So the trade deadline, as I'm recording this video, is not over yet. So this is a relevant story. And I think it's an interesting story even after the trade deadline's over. The Dolphins have received at least one trade call on X, but it would take a Laramie Tunsil type deal offer to get it done. According to ESPN, Adam Schefter, this is what he reported, that it would take a Laramie Tunsil type deal, which would be 2 first-round picks, to get the deal done. This news story I do believe, because Xavier Howard's camp kind of confirmed this, where they said he would be okay with the trade if it came to that. And then it was reported that both camps think it's very unlikely that anything like that would happen. But if the Dolphins did make this move at the trade deadline, it would be a shot to the heart of everybody in the fan base, everybody in that locker room. It would lose the locker room, in my opinion, because obviously Brian Flores' whole thing is, obviously we do best for the team, we want to win now, all that stuff. So that would be completely going up, against his word. There would be no next man up mentality. This entire defensive scheme, it's like a Jenga piece. You take one out, the entire thing falls down. And Xavier Howard would be that piece, because we've seen Igbenogany in the lineup. I'm going to sneeze, guys. I'm sorry. Oh, God. All right. We're back. We've seen Igbenogany in the lineup, and it completely changes the scheme. This scheme puts a lot of pressure on your outside corners, because most of the time they're on an island. We run a lot of single high safety. When we blitz, it's a lot of zero-man stuff, so they're always kind of on an island, because we always have a free safety and a cover one a robber in the middle. So there's never a lot of help on the outside in this defense at all. And Igbenogany just isn't there yet as a player to be able to take that amount of pressure. And no real rookie corner I would expect, unless you're Patrick Peterson or like a once-in-a-lifetime type of a guy, to do that his rookie season. It's just too much on a rookie. It's way too much to ask for a rookie. It's not even just him. It's just the idea of it's crazy. So I think you have to be in the league a while to run the defense that we run. So if Brian traded or Chris traded X at the trade deadline, it would ruin the season. We would have to change the defense, all that. It would ruin the entire season. And obviously, I don't think that's what the Dolphins are going to do. And again, I think it would be one of the dumbest organizational moves ever. And I think it's actually kind of a little bit disrespectful to X, in my opinion. If you trade someone like him, in my opinion, he's one of the best defensive players in the league right now. I think he's the best corner in the league. I don't think it's close. Like I said, the amount of pressure this defense puts on you as a DB is insane. It's fun as a DB to play in this defense because we blitz a lot, so you're going to get a lot of opportunities at pit interceptions. But still, it's a lot of pressure on you as a defensive back. So he has probably, not even if you're a Detroit Lion or a New England Patriot, because they don't blitz as much as Brian does, and Josh Boyer, obviously. It's just hard to find another corner that can do what he does at that high of a level. So I think it's a little disrespectful to X. I don't think even 2 first-round picks, because I don't know how you would replace someone like him. It would be very difficult to do. To get 2 Xavier Howards in a 6 to 5 year span is very unlikely, very, very unlikely. So I think it would it would be like taking 2 steps back instead of 2 steps forward. All you're really going to do is replace the dude. This team is too good to do that. We're not in a rebuild mode, in my opinion, anymore. This team is trending in the right direction. Just add on to it. You don't need to tear it down. Just keep adding to it. So I think it would just be a bad move from a front office standpoint as well. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why you would trade him anyway, because the team is where you want it to be. Just keep adding to it. And like I said, it's a little disrespectful to Xavier Howard as well, because I wouldn't be I know they're only taking calls about him and stuff like that, but it's to me, it's like, hang the phone up. Don't even entertain or set a price for him, because he is so hard to replace. And it's so hard to replace. It's very, very difficult. There's only a few DBs in the league that could run this defense at that high of a level. Like a very few in the NFL that right now that could do that. Obviously, Byron is one of them. He's doing a very good job. But there's not very many people in the league that can play at that high of a level with that much on your shoulders from game to game, especially against really good receivers. So, like they did against the Rams with Robert Woods, Van Jefferson, Justin Reynolds, I think, not Josh Reynolds, Cooper Kupp, who mainly plays in the slot. But yeah, I really would. I think it just sends a terrible message to the team, and I don't. And the fan base, for that matter. It would be one of the dumbest decisions this franchise has ever made, in my opinion. Like I said, why are you doing this? You're just taking 2 steps back for no reason. The team's you have the foundation there, and just keep adding to it. Obviously, X is young, all that stuff. You guys understand that. I really do think he's one of the best defensive players in the league right now. I think he's having a very underrated season. I think a lot of our defensive players on that side of the ball need to get more recognition for what they're doing right now. And X is, to me, the biggest part of that. Him, Ogba, and Byron Jones and Eric Rowe, I think, are the biggest parts to why this defense is working as much as it is. Not to mention Brian Flores is a very, 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 very good head coach and a very good game planner. That helps too. But like I said, he's the Jenga piece. If you take him out, the whole thing falls down. And we saw even when Byron Jones was out that it's a completely different defense. Even in this game, when Byron Jones had the cramps and had to leave, we completely changed what we were doing. And I know we were up a lot, but we were still being aggressive. When Byron Jones left, we reverted back to really what we did against Jacksonville and played a lot of soft zone. And that's just not what this team is. That's not where that's not what it's built to do. Brian built it to run his defense, and his defense is what we saw against the Rams, what we saw against the Niners, what we saw against the Jets. It's very aggressive. And if you don't have the DBs to do it, you can't. And we saw it during the season. Like, compare the Bills' game plan to this game plan. It's completely different. We barely blitzed Josh Allen, and he had a field day. I can't wait to play the Bills again, and that hopefully our defensive backs are healthy, because I really am excited to run that defense against that offense. So like I said, if they did do this, it would just be I don't know what they're doing up there and what they're thinking, in my opinion. And I don't think they will. Why not? You know, there's no way they would. I mean, well, there will be riots if there will. The rant video I would do on that would be a 50-minute long rant. All right, so let's move on. Sorry, guys. Go sniffles. Got the sniffles, everybody. Got the sniffles. Let's get into the actual game. Let's break down the game. I'm super excited to do this. I want to start with the offense, and then we'll get into the defense, because the offense was an absolute disaster. So let's start with the negative. I'm not even going to read you the stats because our leading receiver had 16 yards. So I don't think it's that important. And I'll say this because it's an important stat. Myles Gaskin carried the ball 18 times for 47 yards on an average of 2 yards a carry with 1 touchdown. That was from the 1-yard line. Tua obviously finished 12 of 22, a lot of drops, 93 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. So what happened? What was the biggest problem with this offense? The biggest problem with this offense was Chan Gailey. It's not even close. This was one of the worst game plans I have ever seen as a Dolphins fan. This was and maybe that's a little bit too much because we've seen some bad ones. I mean, Matt Burke has put some bad defensive game plans out there, but this was pretty bad for a lot of different reasons. Number one, it was very conservative. Nothing really downfield. Very, very conservative. A lot of sprint outs, like quick reads, shorten the field for Tua so he could see it easier type stuff. Super conservative, and you're not going to win a game. And, you know, one of the things that someone on ESPN pointed out, it's a very good point. The Rams sit on a lot of stuff because their pass rush is so good. So the counter to what I guess Shane Gailey or whoever came up with this game plan was to throw quick passes. I know that Tua is a rookie, but that's not going to work when they sit. If you see on film, okay, these guys sit on a lot of stuff because they don't have to cover for that long. And then you throw short passes, it's just not going to work. It's God bless Tua for not throwing any interceptions in this game because he easily could have. It was such a bad game plan, and he really didn't have to press because the defense was making so many plays. But if the defense wasn't doing what it did, this game would have been a completely different outcome because the offense just was non-existent. And it had a lot to do with the game plan. So not only was this game plan conservative, this is another big problem I had with the game plan. The personnel groupings were awful. It was a lot. I like the pistol stuff, and it was, if you've watched Tua at Alabama, a lot of those are the same formations that they ran at Alabama. And I was like, when I saw that, I was excited, but it was pistol, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, bootleg. Pistol, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, bootleg. Pistol, 2 receivers, tight ends, bootleg. It was never anything. They didn't spread the field out. They didn't let Tua see the field. They didn't let him make reads. It was ridiculous. It was a lot of the same formations. We really didn't get aggressive until I think it was in the fourth quarter. It was the drive where Myles Gaskin dropped the pass, and Taylor Rapp just made a really good play and knocked it out. But that's what we need to do. And even on that drive, he hits Mike Gesicki on an out route. We ended up hitting a sprint out for the first time in that game to Isaiah Ford, which worked. But the 2 biggest plays on that drive were really just, hey, we're running our spread, which has been the most successful thing for us. It puts pressure on other defenses schematically because I love Chan Gailey's spread. I really do. Like I said, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense. It lets Myles Gaskin do what he does best, in my opinion, which is be a receiving back. And it just really, Mike Gesicki's out there lined up in the slot. I think that's our best formation. Sorry, guys. I'm about to sneeze again. So yeah, I just don't understand. The personnel groupings were awful. It was very samey, a lot of the same stuff, and we really didn't get out of it until towards the end of the second half. Now, I'm assuming that is because of Tua, or no, not Tua. Excuse me, not Tua. The Rams. I'm assuming that's why we did that. But you're not going to win a game that way. You can't go into a game thinking we're going to run that kind of stuff against a veteran defense and think it's going to work. And a very well-coached team. And especially with Aaron Donald. Like, obviously, I don't even have to get into the Wildcat stuff. That was ridiculous. It was disgusting. And one of the last things I want to say is, and this is something that we talked about in week 1, and I was very upset about. This team is not a run-first team. And they try to establish run in this game, and it did not work. And again, it goes back to the mentality, well, Tua is a rookie. We have to take the pressure off. We have to lean on the run game. That's not going to work with this team. You have to let him cook. Like they said, you got to let Russ cook. You have to let Tua cook. You have to let him do what Fitz was doing before Tua got into the lineup. You cannot change it. We had a good rhythm going on, and he completely killed it with this game plan. Just keep on doing what we were doing against the Jets and the 49ers. Keep that going because it was working. I don't understand why we completely changed a lot of that stuff. And like I said, and this is something that we talked about, and I'll say it again, we cannot be a run-first team. It will not work. It will not work. We have to be a pass-first football team. We can pass to set up the run. It's not going to be 100 yards. It's going to be 80 yards maybe on a few carries, hopefully. And it's not how it's going to be. Like I said, when this team's at its best on the offensive side of the ball, it is a pass-first team. And the other thing that I was very disappointed in is the lack of RPOs. That's something that this team has talked about over the last 2 weeks, I'd say. Ever since we had the bye, that has been brought up a lot about some of the RPO stuff. And like I said, where's the creativity? What happened to any of that stuff when Fitz was in the game? I don't understand what happened. We really just kept it super close to the vest, and it wasn't even a good game plan. If you're going to be conservative, do some interesting stuff. Don't do the same thing over and over again like we're playing Madden, for God's sake. I don't understand what the game plan was. It was awful. It was a terrible, 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 terrible game plan. And like I said, you have to let Tua cook. You gotta let him just do what we drafted him to do. See the field, make reads, get the ball out quick. He's really good at that. He was really good at that in college. He showed some signs of it in this game. He had some pretty nice throws, obviously, to Devontae Parker. Mike Gesicki dropped one. Preston Williams dropped two. He had a nice throw, and you can really tell the releases and his arm strength. You could tell as well. It's definitely an improvement over Fitz. I just hope we see more of that stuff. And one thing I will bring up for the offense, and that it's severely lacking, is a slot receiver. This team needs someone who can get in and out of their bigs quicker, can be a little bit of a safety blanket like Hunter Renfrow or Julian Edelman, or a Wes Welker, or a Scotty Miller, or an Adam Humphries, someone like that, or Jamison Crowder, someone like that can. It would be awesome if we could trade for Jamison Crowder. I doubt, obviously that's not going to happen, but that would be a perfect addition to this offense. And I don't know if the Dolphins should try Patrick Laird there, or maybe move. And if they don't make a trade at the deadline, maybe move Preston Williams inside. When Callaway comes back, I would like to see. In my opinion, I think this would be the best personnel grouping. If you put Preston in the slot, Antonio Callaway on the outside, and Devontae Parker on the outside, because Preston and Devontae are pretty much clones of each other. And I think Preston would be a good big slot receiver if he was put in that position. And what I would give for Devon Bess in his prime right now is I would give my left toe, because this team needs someone in the middle of the field bad to be that kind of a presence, and they really don't have it, and they need that. So I hope they do something at the trade deadline. I hope Callaway comes back this week and we can kind of play around with the lineup a little bit, because that is something that this team needs on offense for sure. So let's get into the defensive side of the football. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most dominant. This was like Chicago Bears, Lance Briggs, Brian Urlacher, Justin Peppers, Julius Peppers, Pat Tillman type stuff here. Charles Tillman, not Pat Tillman, type stuff here. Like, this was dominant. We're going to win defensively. We're going to score defensively type of stuff. I want to get into the players before we get into the coaching, because I think that, to me, that's where the game ball deserves to go. And we'll get into why here in a second. One of the best defensive game plans, one of the best game plans we've seen in a long time from a coaching staff. So let's get into the stats really quick. Jared Goff finished 35 for 61 for 355 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. A lot of those yards came 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage. A lot of those yards were screens. Sean McVay kind of started to figure it out, I would say late third quarter, mid third quarter to the fourth quarter, where he kind of figured out a little something to counter it a little bit. And a lot of those yards came off of screens in the receiving game. A lot of run after the catch stuff. A lot of the downfield stuff just wasn't there. Like I said, Cooper Kupp finished with 110 yards receiving. Like I said, a lot of that was just off of short stuff, run after the catch, screen stuff. A lot of it was good design, not necessarily the defense itself. Kind of broke the rules of the defense that we were running. Robert Woods, 7 receptions, 85 yards. Josh Reynolds, 4 receptions, 44 yards. Rushing wise, they had a pretty decent day, I guess, but they were down a lot of the time. So we really didn't really want to pay too much attention to the run because we were up so much at that point. And credit to Sean McVay, he never really got away from it. Their leading rusher only had 47 yards though. So I know like a lot of the media are talking, well, they gave up a ton, but not really. I mean, their leading rusher had 47 yards. I know it seemed a lot more than that. And the crazy thing is Darrell Henderson has less carries than Malcolm Brown did in this game, which is crazy. It seemed like Darrell Henderson took all the carries. So I want to break down again the top players in this game. Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, the most underrated defensive duo in the NFL. It's got to be top 3. It's, to me, the best cornerback duo. It's not even close. Like I said, the pressure that they have on them, the importance of them to the team and to the success of the team is more than any other cornerback duo in the NFL, and it's not even close, in my opinion. The scheme that we run, the aggressive scheme that we run, all depends on their play and their ability to cover. And they are killers out there. Legit killers, dude. Killers. Absolute killers, dude. They are so good at what they do. Xavier Howard, I mean, the play where he should have picked it off, but the guy was open, and his closing speed is ridiculous, and he should have picked it off, but I mean, it was still an outstanding play by X. Byron Jones is locked down, like I said, those two are killers. And Chris Greer has done such a good job assembling people for the scheme. Emmanuel Ogbah has been a godsend. He has 6 sacks on the year. I think that's 3rd in the NFL. Obviously, he had the forced fumble. Van Ginkel, who's been very underrated. It's not just the return for the touchdown. He had a couple of nice pressures in this game, and he's a very good athlete, as you saw on that return. Eric Rowe, who has been, and now if you remember, when we first signed Eric Rowe, he was starting on the outside as a corner, and he was awful. And I've never seen a transition work so well for a player in my life. He has become a really good, not from a bad to a really good defensive player. Like an outstanding defensive player. He should have had 2 interceptions on the day. One of them should have been a pick 6. It's okay, Eric Rowe. I was so, when he broke on that ball, I got so excited, but obviously it was dropped. But nonetheless, Eric Rowe had a dominant performance. I mean, he is the tight end eraser, as Omar Kelly has named him and has deemed him. He really is the tight end eraser. Shaq Lawson, who I think is having an underrated year, he's kind of being outshined by Emmanuel Ogbah, but he gives us 1 or 2 plays a game, especially in this win streak, that really help us a lot. Elandon Roberts, I can't say enough about Elandon Roberts. He's really, really been good against the run. Jerome Baker, 2 nice little hit sticks, as we say in Madden, at the end of that game to kind of close it out there. And overall, he's very important to this defense as well, because you really don't have to take him off the field because he's such a good athlete. And he's very good in man coverage. Who else, man? Who else am I forgetting? Pretty much the entire defense played. Raekwon Davis had a good game, in my opinion. Sam McGuavin, when Van Ginkel got hurt, he had this insane play where he pretty much took out a double team and got into their backfield. He couldn't make the play, but I saw that Sam. It was really nice. I mean, he's one of the best backup linebackers in the NFL. I mean, he could be a starter on a lot of different teams. This defense is really good. Personnel-wise, schematically, it's even better. So I think we ran through the defense schematic. I mean, there's not much. It's just they're humming right now. They're humming right now. So I want to get to Brian Flores, and obviously Josh Boyer. I want to give him a credit as well, but specifically Brian Flores. It has off to Chris Greer. Obviously Nick Needham played really well in this game before he got hurt. He was having a nice game as well. And I want to say again, props to Chris Greer for really signing a lot of good talent this year that has helped his team out a lot. But I want to focus on Brian Flores because I don't think he gets enough credit. He is one of the best head coaches in the NFL right now. We have a franchise head coach who will be here a long time. He is, again, I don't think since Don Shula or Jimmy Johnson have we had a head coach like this. And I know that's big. big talk, but it's true. He has outcoached Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay in the same season. He deserves to be number 1 on the Coach of the Year ballot. It's not even close. Brian Flores is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. I will say it again. He outcoached Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay in the same season. The dude is insane. And I know that Jimmy G obviously had the ankle issue, but we still blew them out by a wide margin. They are a good enough team to not get... And again, George Kittle even played in that game. He was non-existent. What other defense can say that, where they took George Kittle out of the game? Okay? So I don't care that their quarterback was a little limped up or whatever. They still had Raheem Mostert in that game. They still had their offensive line in that game. They still had Brandon Ayuk. They still had Deebo Samuel. I don't think... Maybe Deebo Samuel didn't play in that game. Or maybe he did. I don't remember. They still had their receivers. They still had enough. And Brian Flores still outcoached them there, and he outcoached Sean McVay, and he just doesn't get credit for it. It's like, dude, this dude is, when Sean McVay was doing the stuff that he was doing, when obviously Kyle Shanahan took a while, took like 2 years for him to start, get that program going, but it's like, dude, give this dude some credit, man. He is very, 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 very good, and if Byron Jones doesn't get hurt, who knows what our record is right now. Definitely think we beat the Seahawks. I definitely think we beat the Bills. The Patriots game probably still goes the way that it went. But those 2 games, I think for sure I would like to run back with Byron. And I can't wait to play the Bills again. But I just don't think Brian gets enough credit for what he does and what he means to this organization and turning it around, and his game plans, especially on defense, and his foresight. And I think something that he doesn't just run this scheme. It's like people will think, oh, he just blitzes. No. He runs the scheme, yes, but he tailors it to the team that he plays. Like in this game, sometimes we were blitzing, we were breaking protections. We would only send 4 at times, and it would still break their protection because they didn't know who was coming and who was going. It puts a lot of pressure on your offensive line. It puts a lot of pressure on your quarterback. There were times where, and again, this goes to watching film and understanding your opponent. There were times where, and obviously taking away what they like to do, and that's what Brian Flores did. He took away what Sean McVay likes to do. But Jared Goff was so rattled that he wouldn't even look in the middle of the field because he was scared that someone was dropping back. And he was still getting pressure, even though, like I said, it might have been a 4-man rush and everybody drops back. There was still someone in his face because they didn't pick him up. And he was so rattled that he wouldn't even look in the middle of the field. There were like 2 or 3 times there he had like a shallow cross coming across the field. He didn't even look at him because he was so rattled and didn't want to throw another interception because he didn't know if somebody was dropping back in that passing lane or not. So that is the Brian Flores effect. He legit broke Sean McVay's offense. And I would love, if I could, I would love to just watch that game again and just go through it play by play and just break down and just watch it with you guys and just like, okay, this is what Brian, look at this play, look at that play, and it's so creative. And Brian Flores is just, he's legit. He really is legit, and it's very fun, and I'm very, very happy, and I'm glad I was wrong because, I said when we hired him that I was like, okay, how much of that was Bill Belichick? The Bill Belichick coaching tree hasn't really been that great. I liked Chris Richard from the Seattle Seahawks. I thought, he had a good pedigree, and I was completely wrong. I mean, I could not be more wrong, and I'm glad that we got Brian Flores. And I think pretty much everybody was kind of down on him a little bit. He was a find, dude. He really was. So I gotta breathe, man. I'm almost out of breath here. But like I said, I think if there's anything to take away from this game, and one thing I will say about Tua too before we move on to the fan Q&A, you could tell. I mean, he hasn't played football in a long time. You could tell there was a little rust there, I think that's something that we will fix moving forward. Or not fix, but that's something that just will naturally come back to him. And I hope Shane Gilly just doesn't do that again. Please don't do that again. And hopefully he just goes back to what we were doing before. And what was I saying? Oh, and the one thing I think we can take away from this game that's the most important thing is Brian Flores is a franchise head coach. And he is one of the best head coaches in the National Football League. Sorry, guys. I'm about to sneeze again. I gotta blow my nose here in a second, but I'll do that after we finish up this video. Sorry, guys. All right. This first question, whew, we got a lot of questions. 46 questions today. Again, we're getting to the thank you name. This first question comes from Derry. He says, "Hey Skaggs, trade deadline is tomorrow, as you know already. Do you think we should push for AJ Green?" Yes, I think the Dolphins need another guy in the middle of the field. I don't not necessarily AJ Green, but maybe someone like Brandon Cooks would be nice. Call the Jets about Jameson Crowder. Maybe they're willing to give him up. Someone like that. They definitely need someone in the slot for sure. This next question comes from Ian. He says, "I know Tua has only played one game, and he didn't get very many opportunities, so I think it's unfair to judge him this early. That being said, I think a lot of us Fins fans have been thinking about the other rookie quarterbacks in the NFL right now. My question is, if you could do our draft over again, would you take Herbert instead of Tua? I've been listening to you for a long time. Huge fan of the podcast. Keep up the great work." Thank you, Ian. That means a lot. It really, really does. Would I have redraft? No. If you told me right now, go back and redo the draft in terms of the quarterbacks, I would still take Tua over Herbert. It's too, like I said, it's like I'm not. Just like when the defense was struggling because of a lot of different reasons at the beginning of the season, I didn't get off the wagon. I told you guys, I said I think the defense is still really good and still really talented, and I didn't get off. I still believed, and I still believe. Like I said, I've been on the Tua wagon for a long time. I still, and I think even in this game you could see it. It just, the game plan was so bad. And we did. Not only was he a rookie quarterback who hadn't played football in a long time, but he also had a very bad game plan. So yeah, I still would pick Tua. I think it's just, I can't wait to play the Cardinals. It's kind of like we didn't get to see Tua play this week because of how conservative the game was. Hopefully next week we get to see a Tua play a little bit, for God's sakes. Against the Cardinals. This next question comes from Kid. He says, "Hey Skaggs, not a lot of targets to go around into his first start, and there didn't need to be. But moving forward, do you want to see a larger target share for anyone in particular, or should we continue to spread the ball around?" This is a good question. Like I said, I think that's where what I'm kind of getting at. Like, that he needs someone in the slot. Whether that's Malcolm Perry, whether that's Patrick Laird, whether we move Preston in, maybe we move Antonio Callaway in there. Maybe we trade for something, because, like I said, Devontae and Preston are kind of clones of themselves. But I think that is where I would say if we could get someone like that, where I think a lot of the targets, it really would help him out a little bit. And it fits his game, too. He likes to get the ball out quick and accurately and on time. As soon as you come out of your breaks, his anticipation on throws is insane. Like, he needs someone like that in this offense. And we just don't have it. So if we could get someone like that, I think you could see a lot of targets go that way. But I think as of right now, I think spreading the ball around, in general, that's something that Tua has always done well. But I think what you're saying in terms of maybe someone like a go-to guy, like a safety blanket, that's something that this offense needs to kind of figure out. This next question comes from Josh. He says, "Go Fins. Everyone had us losing this game like they always do." Yes, that's true. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey Skaggs, great win for the Dolphins in Tua's debut. Team showed great improvement. What did you think Tua still needs to improve on, unless we haven't talked about it already?" See what you did there, Beef. What do I think Tua needs to improve on? I think he needs to just get back in the swing of things. I think there was one throw where I was like, all right, I wish you kind of stepped up a little bit right there and hit Jakeem Grant on that one throw. He did have Aaron Donald right in his face. So that was really the only, like, all right, that, well, we can improve on that. Other than that, I don't even understand. Like, Brian Flores came out today and said, he has some stuff he needs to improve on. What reads were there on the field for him to throw to is what I want to know. And especially when you, if you've seen some of the coaches' film from this game, and like there were people that he could have been, he could have made a throw to some people, but since they rolled him outside of the pocket, he couldn't make the throw. Like, it would be, even Patrick Mahomes couldn't make some of those throws. So they limited him a lot with those bootlegs. I like the Alabama stuff. I hope we keep doing that, and I hope we keep seeing more RPOs. But expand on it a little bit. Like, it was a really bad game plan. And I'm not really sure what the coaching staff is talking about. How about give this man a chance, for God's sakes? Yeah, that was on the coaches, in my opinion. What was the question again? Is there anything that Tua needs to improve on? No. I think it's rust. I didn't see enough of it. It just wasn't enough. We need to see more of him actually try to be a quarterback than, treating him like he needs to have bubble wrap around him. This next question comes from Ethan. He says, "Hey Skaggs, everyone keeps talking about us being a contender in 2021, but why can't we be a contender this year?" I think we're definitely a Super Bowl contender. It might be a little too far, but a playoff contender for sure. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey Skaggs, did you highly predict that Tua's first touchdown was going to be to Devontae Parker? Also, did you notice that the game was on 11-1 and Parker's number is 11 and Tua's number is 1? Does that creep you out in any way?" No, that does not creep me out. And I don't think I did predict that about the Devontae Parker thing. To answer your question, who answered that? Who did I even say his name? Oh, who answered that question? Or who asked that question? Oh, Beef. Beef asked that question. This next question comes from Kid. He says, "Any update on Andrew Van Ginkel's injury after tackling Kupp? It looked like his earlobe was swinging away from his head as he jogged off the field. P.S. This defense is playing better as a unit every week. Fins up. Thanks for the content, Skaggs." Thank you, and thank you for saying that. I think he's okay. I think he actually came back in that game and played. So yeah, I think he's fine. I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that at all. And Van Ginkel, again, another underrated piece to the puzzle. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He says, "Hey Skaggs, love your show. Question: who would you pick for offensive player of the game, and who would you pick for defensive player of the game?" This is a great question. So I guess we got to start with the offensive side of the football. I would probably say Jakeem Grant because he had the longest reception on the day on that comeback he ran. And Tua put it on him, and obviously had the punt return for a touchdown. So I would say probably Jakeem Grant on offense. Defensively, I would say it's a three-way tie between Eric Rowe, Emmanuel Ogbah. I think it maybe just be a two-way tie. I think those two had the best performances of the day. I would say, but it's a co-MVP for Ogbah and Eric Rowe. Where are we? I lost my train. Oh, here we go. This next question comes from Bad Bandit. He says, "Hey Skaggs, what did you think about the offensive play calling? I didn't like it, honestly. It seemed like we limited Tua and we kept forcing Wildcat plays for no reason." Yeah, I didn't even get to the Wildcat stuff. That was terrible. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. They got to not do that anymore, please. That was an embarrassment of offensive football. They have to just do what we were doing before. That's the best way I can explain that. This next question comes from... Oh, God, this thing really had to refresh on me. See, this is bad in the middle of a dang podcast when you gotta click back. You gotta fill airtime here. And I gotta find where we were. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to find where we were. Alright, this next question comes from AMV. He says, "Skaggs, after we have seen all these new free agents and rookies ball for us, what does this say about Chris Grier's ability to find the right talent for the team?" I think it says a lot about who was running the organization before when Chris Grier was still the GM. Clearly, the input of Mike Tannenbaum and Adam Gase was larger than the input of Chris Grier. I think that's the biggest thing I take away from this. And Chris Grier has done a very good job, and I think it says a lot about him as a GM as well, and how good of a GM he actually is. Again, Bill Parcells' background, his dad was a long-time front office guy. He obviously was in New England too. This guy has a good pedigree. This next question comes from Chad. He says, "Skaggs, do you think we will be able to keep up with Arizona if our offense plays like they did today?" I think our defense matches up with them really well because they're a very shotgun-heavy team. They never really go under center, and that fits how we want to play defense. If the best thing you do is pass, well, the best thing we do is rush the passer and play pass defense. So I think we'll be good to go. Defensively, but offensively, obviously, you can't have 93 yards passing and you expect to win any game. So yes, they need to pick it up offensively, to answer your question, Chad. This next question comes from Mark. He says, Tua and the O-line had their hands full with the Rams' pass rush, but Tua showed his accuracy even under pressure. How well will Tua do against the Cardinals' defense next week? Well, they don't have a pass rusher. Hassan Reddick is probably their best pass rusher. So he should have a lot of time, and just hopefully the game plan is more aggressive, and they feel a little bit more comfortable in being a little bit more aggressive against the Cardinals' defense. I think that's pretty much the biggest thing offensively going into the Cardinals game. This next question comes from Scar. He says, "What's up, Skags? What are your thoughts on the play calling they had for Tua? Should they just go back and stick with the style that Fitz was running, or stick with the same? No, they have to go back to the Fitz thing. Like I said, this team can't lean on the run as much as they, I guess, want to. They can't do that. This has to be a pass-first team, and you just have to trust Tua. You just have to trust him and let him go. You have to. So yeah, they can't go back to that game plan to answer your question, Scar. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey Skags, next week we're going to play against the Cardinals, Tua versus Kyler Murray. Do you think Arizona is going to give us stiff competition? P.S. Sorry to hear you got scammed this past week. Thank you, Beef." And what was the stiff competition? Yeah, I mean, they're a good team. Any good team's going to give you issues. I mean, it just is what it is. This is a team that beat Seattle. It's a good football team. So it definitely won't be an easy game to win, that's for sure. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, What do you think the game plan is against Arizona, and how many yards/touchdowns does Tua throw for?" He's definitely going to have a bounce back performance. This is an easier defense. They have a good secondary, though, I will say, about Arizona. Is it Byron Murphy? Yeah, I think it's Byron Murphy, and obviously Pat P, and they have Drake Kirkpatrick as well. It's a very underrated secondary, so I don't think it's like this defense is bad by any stretch of the imagination. But it's definitely easier because their front is nowhere near. Aaron Donald is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the history of the league. So it's going to be a big drop off from that to this. So I think Tua would definitely have a bounce back game. I don't know how many yards we'll throw for, but it will be a much improved, especially if the game plan is. If we just go back to what we were doing before, I'm very excited to see that. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, "If Fitz was the starter, do you think we would have had won by more, or does he throw the game away with bad throws and poor decisions?" That's a good question. I think we would have won by more because I don't think we would have been running bootlegs and, with Ryan Fitzpatrick. We wouldn't have spammed bootlegs. I think we just would have kept doing what we were doing, and definitely would have attacked the field a little bit more than we did. So yeah, for sure, I think we would have won by more, and it has nothing to do with Tua. It just has to do with Chan Gailey. This next question comes from Josh. He says, "What did you think offensively we called?" He says, "Skags, do you think offensively we called a game?" Again, this question comes from Josh. He says, "Offensively, we called a conservative game for Tua because of how good the Rams defense is, and we'll see a little bit more aggressive play calling next week against the Cardinals." Hopefully we do, Josh. I hope so. This next question comes from Bad Bandit. He says, Do you think we will make a move before the deadline? I would love to get a running back. I truly believe Dallas would trade Zeke for the right price. Zeke would be amazing. He's very similar to Le'Veon Bell, where he can affect the passing game and the running game. He would be great, and he can make something out of nothing as well. So Zeke would be awesome, and if we could give up a second round pick for Zeke, that'd be great. But definitely unlikely. But yeah, I hope it's not looking like we will, but I hope we get some sort of a receiver at the deadline. This next question comes from Ethan. He says, "What do you believe to be Tua's ceiling in the NFL?" One of the best pocket passers in the league for a long time. He has the potential. He has the ability. He will do it, I think. I don't really see anything in his game that will hamper him from doing that. So, yeah, I think one of the best pocket passers in the NFL for a long time. This next question comes from Josh. He says, "How well does our defense match up against Arizona? Can we continue the good defensive play?" Absolutely. Like I said earlier, we really match up with them well. This next question comes from Josh. He says, "What adjustments do you see our offense making, and what kind of plays would you like to see the Dolphins run against the Cardinals?" Just more RPOs. I want our running game to only be RPOs. Let Tua read the linebackers, and if he wants to, hand it off, and if he doesn't, throw the ball. It's exactly what I said, where you have to pass to set up the run. Well, an RPO is the best of both worlds. So I think we need to do way more RPOs. I think We just need to go back to some of the spread stuff that we do. Like I said, I love Changeli's offense. He was killing it as an offensive play caller the last few weeks, and I don't understand what he should have just trusted Tua more, in my opinion. And I do want to see more of that Alabama stuff as well. I just don't run bootlegs anymore, just at least as much. This next question comes from David. He says, sorry, I had to click it here. He says, I did not expect Tua to have a great game. Honestly, I wasn't sure if we would win, but our defense played incredible. What I was looking for from Tua is just show me a few things that make it obvious why he was a first-round pick. Create, read the defense, make a play, look the part. We saw that from Burrow. We saw it from Herbert. Even though they are not winning, they look like NFL quarterbacks. I saw absolutely zero from Tua, nothing special. Does that mean anything on his first game? Probably not, but it makes me nervous. What do you need to see next week for reassurance? I need our game plan to be better. No quarterback in the NFL would have had success with that game plan. It was really bad. So I need my game plan to be better, and I need to just play to Tua's strengths. They really didn't play to Tua's strengths. Spread the field out. Let him make reads. Let him see the field. Let him get the ball out of his hands quick. Let him run those RPOs. Let him use his accuracy, which is what makes him special, and his ability to read the field and manipulate the back end of the defense. And he didn't get to do that against the Rams. So they need to play to his strengths, and that's what hopefully we see against the Cardinals, in my opinion. The sixth question comes from Mark. He says, what are your feelings on Flores' defensive approach and philosophy, and how would you describe its progression over a season and a half? Like I said, he really wants to put a bunch of pressure on your offensive line and your pass protection. You better be up on your pass protection. You better have all types of calls at the line to pick up what Brian Flores throws at you, because it's going to be a lot. And not only does it's not like Rex Ryan where he just runs these 4 blitzes every game. He tailors it to the team he plays. So not only is he sending pressure, he's going to attack what he sees on film that is your weakness in your pass protection. He's going to take away what you want to do offensively. So not only do you have a lot of pressure on you, but he's also taking away what you want to do. And a lot of NFL teams right now don't change what they do week to week. They really just, all right, this is what we do well. This is what we do in practice well. This is what we're going to do this week. That's not going to work against Brian Flores as long as he has the personnel intact and he can run his scheme. So I think that's what makes him so special, is he has a foundation and a base for what he likes to do, but he also tailors it to the people that he plays. So I think that's what makes it so special. The sixth question comes from MC. He says, hey, Skaggs, did you think defensive play calling was the best it's been since week 1? And was it more so the players or the defensive coordinator? It's a mixture of both. They can run the defense that they want to run because they have the personnel to do it. So I think it's a mixture of both, MC. This next question comes from Nothing Face. He says, the conservative play calling reminded me a lot of how they held Fitz back a few games ago. How long until you think they let Tua fly like they did with Fitz? Hopefully this week. And if they don't, I'm going to get very upset because it's just dumb to not do that. This next question comes from Brett. He says, hey, Skaggs. And does he go? Excuse me. This next question comes from Brett. He says, hey, Skaggs, what did you think? Who did you think was the MVP on the defense for the season so far? The coaches, Eric Rowe, Byron Jones / Xavier Howard, or Emmanuel Ogbah. I think it's coaching, and it's a 3-way tie between Rowe. It's a 4-way tie between Rowe, Byron, X, and Ogbah. I just think those guys are so important to what we do that you really can't, like, those guys are the MVP. And I guess if you want to go statistically, it would be Ogbah, but you, like, all of those guys deserve their fair share of the credit, for sure. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, Skaggs, if Preston Williams keeps dropping passes, who would you like to see get more playing time, Ford Grant or others? I hate to say this, but it's a hard truth. Preston Williams, and hopefully this game, I think the game plan was a big reason for it, but he needs to be moved from outside to inside, in my opinion. He needs to do something. We need to do something with Preston Williams differently, in my opinion, because right now it's not consistent, and it needs to be. And I think we need to just tweak it a little bit for him, and I think hopefully we get better results. This next question comes from Chad. He says, because he is very talented, and you can tell that when you watch the games. He's won some rounds where he hasn't gotten the ball, but I think we need to kind of help him out a little bit with some of this stuff. This next question comes from Chad. He says, "Is our defense the real deal?" I don't even gonna try. I don't know if that's right. He was a little play on words there. Is our defense yes, our defense is the real deal, to answer your question, Chad. This next question comes from Richard. He says, "How about them Dolphins trading for a running back, Todd Gurley or Royce Freeman of the Denver Broncos at the trade deadline?" Those guys, I'm not necessarily those guys, but I do feel you on that. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, "We have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds this upcoming draft. Do you think we should add Jalen Waddle?" Yeah, that would be awesome. He would help out a lot. Donovan Smith, I think, fits the team a little bit better, but I like Jalen Waddle as well. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, "What do you think we need out of this upcoming draft?" I would probably say I would add another defensive tackle, and I would add probably right. I think I would add another defensive tackle, a running back, and a slot receiver. I think are some of the bigger ones. I forgot to shout out Brandon Jones, who's having really good rookie season so far as well. Brandon Jones has been really good. This next question comes from Eric. He says, when the offense had the ball, they didn't really do much. What do you think is the reason for that game plan? It was awful. This next question comes from Charlie. He says, what do you think the Dolphins' final record would be? I don't like predicting that stuff. I have no idea. This next question comes from Adrian. He says, Skaggs, first, I am truly sorry for what happened to you online. Hoping, praying justice gets done in your behalf. I do as well. He says, we had all had such high hopes for Preston Williams this year coming back from injury. He's taken a step back, and I'm really disappointed. He dropped what very well might have been the winner versus the Bills. Now seems his concentration and focus are off. Looking forward to Callaway or Cooks, perhaps, for a spark. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, he needs to do... Like I said, I think we just need to switch it up for him. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, I feel like the Dolphins... and again, thank you for saying all that stuff. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, I feel like the Dolphins play not to lose in the second half. Playing calling seems to go from day to night. Do you feel the same way? Yeah, I do, a little bit. Especially the Jaguars game, it was really bad. The Rams game, it was bad the entire time. What else? It's a good example. The 49ers game, I feel like we kind of kept our foot on the gas a little bit. But yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. This next question comes from Alpha. He says, ever since Mike G career game, he has fallen off next to zero productivity. Why do you think that is? That's a hard one to put my finger on. I don't know. I think teams if you watch the games, like, I'm not saying you don't. I don't know why I said it like that, but like I should have said when you watch the games, you can tell that that he has more attention on him than he ever has before. And really, we need to get these guys. It's because the Jets game and Rams game was so weird that we just need to get them back in rhythm. Because if you guys remember in the Niners game, Preston Williams had 100 yards receiving, and I think Mike had like 80 yards receiving. So we just need to kind of get back to that and get out of this funk a little bit. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, did you like Tua's debut? I personally didn't know he did a good job managing the game, but I probably expected a little bit more. Yeah, it was just bad. It was just a bad game plan. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, Tua didn't look too good. Do you think the offense will look a little bit more complex next week? Hopefully they do. This next question comes from Leaf. He says, do you think we need to get more weapons for Tua? In my opinion, the only solid wide receiver we have is Parker. Preston Williams is inconsistent, and the other guys barely touch the ball. Our tight ends are decent, in my opinion. So does a wide receiver first round with Texans pick, or a pick then get us an O-line with our other pick, or O-lineman, and our first pick in the second round, a running back? I think his name's Fulton. What's his name? I can't remember his name right now. The other receiver in LSU that was beside Justin Jefferson. He really reminds me of Odell Beckham a lot. I like him a lot. He's a really good player. I would love for him to be a Dolphin. So yeah, I definitely think the Dolphins could use someone like a DK Metcalf or someone who's a high value prospect. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. How about them Dolphins? We're riding real high right now. Hopefully we can keep it up, and I think we will. And we just got to switch up some things on offense. And I'm excited to see what happens with the trade deadline brings us. And I am Skaggs83, and I will see you guys in the next one.